¿A dónde está papi? 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 ¿A dónde está papi?
Welcome to the Thursday stream. I hope everyone's having an awesome Thursday. Welcome, Mayhem Hippie. Yeah, you're even early today. Or am I early today? I'm late. Because of work, of course. How's everybody doing? Hey, super. Huge thank you to the Surfs for the massive mega shout out. All right, folks, we've got a few things to cover. We'll see how much we can get through today. Alia with the 13 biddies. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. All right. I think we should probably, yeah, let's just start with this video here. Mayhem Hippie with 100 biddies. Thank you so much. You've got the Bernie pop figure behind to the left. Yeah, it's always been there. Yeah, the little Bernie pop figure, it's always been there. It's like my it's one of the staples as part of the set. Whoa, Mayhem Hippie going absolutely wild with 5 tier 1 subs. Everybody gets a sub over here. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Whew. Sheesh. Echo Wrestler Dragon, how's it going? Kicking things off. Spicy. Enjoy. Thank you so much. I appreciate the support. Thank you. That's true. You can't sub if you're already subbed. True. Wow. Incredible. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. All right, folks. Let's get some content started. All right.
This episode is made possible by Ren.
I will never understand people.
They're the worst.
Oftentimes, when you talk about socialism with someone, you get to this point in the conversation. Socialism sounds good in theory, but it could never work in real life. People are too competitive, too greedy, too selfish, too cruel.
Yeah, like the same people who are like, oh yeah, dude, you know, socialism only works and looks good on paper and whatnot, and then like point to capitalism as the bar of success. I could say the same thing about capitalism. It's not a convincing argument.
Too violent. Too insert something bad.
Right, and like the people who are like, oh, people are just too greedy, too violent, or whatever. If you ask me, that's I can usually chalk that up to like a self-report, because like not everybody is like that. I would argue that like human nature is to cooperate as we're a social species, so that's kind of a red flag.
They're the worst. Or sometimes, the conversation doesn't focus on how evil people are, but on how commerce-driven humans are. Socialism would never work because humans are economic animals with brains built for trade and maximizing our returns on investment.
No, those are economic terms that are invented by people. That's not how the natural world works.
Much of the public debate about socialism doesn't really focus on the merits of socialism. Instead of debating whether it would be better if everyone was housed, fed, free from exploitation, and working shorter days, because it's immediately obvious that it would be, or how we might get there and the institutions that would coordinate these needs, the conversation gets cut short on the grounds that it's unrealistic. Despite socialists proving the possibility of these things empirically, through experimentation, logic, and historical or cross-cultural parallel, all these efforts are struck down by these really simple statements that just kind of sound true. Sure, capitalism sucks, but that's because humans suck, so why should we believe socialism could be any better? Socialism is pie in the sky. It's hubris from young people who don't know how the world works yet. Just wait till you hit your 30s and you'll grow out of it. And I understand why this works. It's a convincing idea. Everyone has people in their life who are greedy, selfish jerks, and everyone can recognize the part of themselves that is a greedy, selfish jerk. It stands to reason that human nature has, at the very least, an element of selfishness and cruelty to it.
I saw them socialist snowplows today. That's funny.
But this has very little to do with socialism, and as a justification for capitalism, it's a very strange one. In this video, I'm not going to prove...
Yeah, because like then wouldn't the argument be like, well, why would you then go to a system that caters... Like, if you want to make the argument that, yeah, like, people are somehow inherently have an aspect of, like, being greedy or whatnot, why would you turn to the very system that actually encourages it and, in fact, applauds it? Does any system work if you are poor? Besides, many people are empty bank accounts. If 90% of income is used for rent only, does any system work if you're poor? Well, I mean, in an ideal system, there wouldn't be such a thing, right?
What human nature is or isn't. If you'd like to watch a video approaching this question from a biological perspective, go check out my buddy Ugopnik's video from a couple months ago, where he breaks down the nature versus nurture debate using twin studies and emerging science on epigenetics. Don't like that? Check out Andrewism's video about how different philosophical traditions have interpreted the human nature argument across time and space, and the kinds of society that flourished with different understandings of humanity. Two great videos, two very different approaches, two pretty similar conclusions. Human nature is not a very good argument. In this video, I'm going to take a third approach to this conclusion. We're going to be looking at how this idea of a singular, corrupt, logical, and self-interested human nature gains traction as a defense of capitalism, the inherent contradictions of this idea, and why it doesn't actually undermine socialist politics. And I know I'm fighting a stupid battle here. The human nature argument is one that takes like 3 seconds to make, and that anti-socialists never feel like they have to justify. Except maybe by pointing to someone doing something bad and calling it proof, or relying on the assumption that if a past socialist experiment failed, it was because of human nature. Debunking this is going to take me many minutes, because I'm not going to take those easy shortcuts, and maybe that makes what I'm doing even dumber. Anyway, the first thing to address with a lot of these human nature claims is how weirdly essentializing they are. For some reason, when human nature is invoked, it's always the part of human nature that sucks that we focus on, despite the fact that we have millions of examples of people being selfless.
Hi.
True.
Regularly make massive personal sacrifices.
This is why leftism and socialist leaning people are steadily on the rise, mostly because unenlightened rich people have convinced several generations that they can be. Unenlightened rich people in the current generation see through it to a better way. Yeah, like I think it's mostly also like the idea that people are starting to question if whether or not this is working. The answer to that is, well, no, it's not. The right hates FDR was a socialist. The right hates when you say that for with him being a war president. Teddy and Eisenhower both had a ton of socialist policies. Yeah, I mean, like I don't know if I would say that like FDR is a socialist, but he definitely had more progressive or more lefty ideas, or at least some kind of left leaning policies rather than not. And of course, that would never fly today. That would never fly. Would the Western world would ever stop using currency because would any society erase value? It's not even like, but you wouldn't be erasing value though. I don't think that that's like how you would really think about it. I mean, I don't even know if you even had to necessarily stop using currency either. Socialistic policy or a socialistic society would be a collectivist society that the workers are the ones who own the means of production, generally speaking. There could be currency. There could not be. The biggest reason for progressive push is that information can be communicated among the masses fairly freely, and we no longer need to rely on elites to set an example. Yes, but that is also a double-edged sword. As we see, that's also a double-edged sword. You have small communities that work off trade and barter systems all over the world. It is possible, but with capitalism, it's not really viable on a large scale. Yeah, on a large scale, you're not going to really see that as much.
Before their brain even has the time to compute what kind of selfish benefit they might gain from it. There are plenty of documented cases of people jumping into a river to save a drowning stranger at the drop of a hat, and probably even more undocumented cases of the same thing. Hundreds of millions of hours are volunteered every year. Mutual aid networks exist throughout the world, and on a daily basis, you almost certainly do something kind for someone else. Tiny little selfless acts like opening a door for someone are almost invisible in our everyday life because they're so immediate and common. I'll admit these aren't the strongest arguments I've ever made on this channel, but
Sorry, hold on. My bad. I'm not sure what that's referencing. Are you saying that there is no economic system that helps poor people? I don't know what any of that means. That's why I like my service job every day, helping others. Nice. All right. The fun thing happened to me today. I was out shopping and took myself to lunch. Afterwards, I was reading a book about witches, and the waitress was not happy about it. Was super rude and gave me a shitty service. I left her a 50% cash tip. Kill 'em with kindness. Nice. I just wish it paid a little bit more. Sheesh. Everybody, yeah, I completely agree with that. I too work in customer service, and yeah.
But the reason I'm not spending too much time on them is because, one, as I'll flesh out later in the video, socialism doesn't require selflessness by any means. A socialist world could work even if it was filled with people who are fundamentally, ontologically greedy. And two, before we even get to that, I have to point out that there's no reason to think people are more fundamentally greedy than they are generous. And even if we are more fundamentally greedy, the simple fact that selfishness and greed exist is not a justification for building an economic system that rewards that behavior. If you believe that humans are naturally
That's literally
selfish,
what I just said. That's literally what I just said, and I didn't even pre-watch this. Any does not have any system or market need participation. There are not many things a person can do for free. Again, these are words These words are not exact. I'm not sure, again, what you're referencing. Is there a system in place where a person cannot participate? I mean, yeah, that's why we have social programs, right? That's why we have social programs. Kids are not, for the most part, like a 5-year-old is not like working or putting into taxes, but yet there's universal programs that still cater to these individuals. So I'm not understanding, and that exists now. Even under our shitty system, we've managed to make some of these things happen. There are people who cannot work, and yet we have some kind of universal safety nets that assist. Correct, your taxes pay for them. Exactly. Exactly. So I'm not that's my point. I'm not understanding what the point is here. Like there's nothing free. It just comes from the taxes that get pulled in together to make these universal systems. So I'm not sure.
Believing that it's something we're capable of and that we're equally capable of kindness, and most of the time we just flip-flop between the two, that's fine. I probably won't be able to convince you otherwise. But I won't spend too much time on that because no matter what you believe human nature is, it doesn't logically follow that selfishness and greed should be the ticket to wealth and power in our society. If you think we're all rotten to our core, you're going to need another piece of evidence or some other argument to prove to me that that means our society should reward those who take this to the extreme. That the most openly selfish and greedy of us deserve to be on top. My guess is those arguments aren't going to be very convincing. I don't know many people that believe society would be best served when selfish people are in charge and have more power to be selfish. But not all arguments about human nature as a justification for capitalism take this form. Instead of arguing for capitalism from the point of greed and selfishness, both of which have a negative connotation, some people claim that we are built for the profit-seeking trade that capitalism depends on, and that capitalism actually evolved out of this aspect of human nature. In The Wealth of Nations, Adam Smith, one of the first and most influential defenders of capitalism.
Yeah, but money does buy happiness when it buys your security in healthcare, housing, and food. What if that was just like universal programs? What if those are just universal? What if we had a world where people just had food, housing, education, and healthcare? So it's not the money that buys. So it's not the money that buys the happiness, right? It's the security that you have, the basic needs met. It should be common sense among the wealthy that taxing the excesses to fund programs which keep the common masses off their backs is good. Yeah, but they're not interested in that. They don't care. I mean, I'm sure they might realize that, but they will attempt to extract and exploit as much as possible until they can't. That would be nice, but did we hop timelines again? No, I'm saying that I don't think that money necessarily buys happiness. It's not the money. It's the fact that you have these things. So my pretend question is why market or value, if not currency and or banks are not the main, then what to trade? You mean in a world where money doesn't exist or markets don't exist? Then what would happen? Well, in this world, society, and timeline, it does buy that kind of happiness. You have to buy them to have them. Right. I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. Markets and currency are not the same. No, they're not the same. Markets and currency are not the same. If there is no such thing as money or markets, then other forms would take place, like bartering. You know, there used to be a time where that didn't exist.
Wrote that there is, quote, a certain propensity in human nature. The propensity to truck, barter, and exchange one thing for another. Unlike animals, Smith says that humans are simply designed to exchange and compare and seek out the best deal. As a counterexample, Smith says, quote, nobody ever saw a dog make a fair and deliberate exchange of one bone for another with another dog. But we people, we're human because we are driven towards profit by trade. And therefore capitalism is just the inevitable social system that results from individual behaviors. The problem is that Smith just made this up. He made it up.
Yeah, and also, like, there were societies that existed that were massive societies that had nothing to do with what Smith just described.
He's not wrong that humans trade and that for the most part, animals don't. But all Smith did was see that people around him were trading goods for other goods or for currency. He saw that other animals weren't doing it, and so he essentialized it as part of human nature basically on a whim. He assumed that this must be something humans are hardwired to do, and that we must have always done. In The Wealth of Nations, Smith imagines, which is to say he guesses, that the history of humanity is one where we start trading small goods with one another. I'll give you this thing for that thing. Then we figure out that this is inefficient as we specialize in our labor, and therefore we start creating currencies. First we use salt and leather to trade goods, and eventually we figure out precious metals work best because they travel well and you can standardize them. And eventually, quite naturally, you get a market system based on maximizing the amount of precious metals you have. This then becomes more complex and larger until you develop systems of debt and accounting. And soon enough, you have capitalism. If you've ever taken an Econ 101 class, there's a good chance you've heard this story before. Capitalism, for Smith, happens very naturally, and it all starts from the fact that this is just how humans work and interact with one another. It's a really effective justification for capitalism, because if maximizing profit through trade is just what humans do, and it transcends time and space, then every outcome of trade is justified. Why would we ever question it or get in its way? Morality is always changing, it's different from person to person, and nobody can agree on it. But profit-seeking is immortal, and it's part of us, so it becomes untouchable.
It's different than the kind of acts of imagination that go with fiction.
Like I said, this was just Adam Smith's best guess. When you go looking through history and throughout the world, as David Graeber does in Debt the First 5,000 Years, this story of truck and barter becoming currency, becoming capitalism, just doesn't exist anywhere. The ethnologist Caroline Humphrey puts it really bluntly. No example of a barter economy, pure and simple, has ever been described, let alone the emergence from it of money. All available ethnography suggests that there has never been such a thing. Most of human existence until very recently was spent just giving other people stuff. Different societies in different parts of the world did things differently. Some would have central collection points where resources would be gathered and then redistributed. In other places, people privileged gift giving as a means of exchange. And almost everywhere, people just gave each other things and services either for nothing in return or the vague idea that the other person owed them one. Adam Smith's idea that people were out there figuring out how many bones were worth one really good stick and this eventually turning into capitalism is just not something we've ever been able to find historical proof of. What we do have plenty of proof of is that for most of human existence, we ran our economies on gifts and the common ownership of resources. Barter existed, but at most it was a very small part of human life, and one that you were pretty unlikely to ever encounter at any point in human history. The historical record doesn't seem to show that it's in our human nature to truck and barter, at least a lot less than it indicates that it's in our nature to work together and make collective decisions. And look, I'm not saying that we should limit our imagination for what society should look like based on what we think human nature is, or what we're able to find in pre-existing social models. I'm just saying that if your justification for capitalism is that it's more respectful of our propensity to barter, the historical record shows we are way more capable of doing things differently. Even if someday we find out that Adam Smith had a lucky guess and we did indeed spend most of history getting really good at trading stuff, that wouldn't make capitalism more justifiable because capitalism isn't just about trade. Capitalism is an economic system where a few people own all the tools we need to make stuff. The factories, the farms, the machinery. In other words, the means of production. And use this privileged ownership to employ the vast majority of people to work and transform it into something productive. Trade is a small part of the equation.
Barter was used for rare goods outside of everyday needs, yep.
But Adam Smith makes it seem like it's at the core of capitalism, and that it comes from who we are as humans. The reality is that capitalism is an economic system that has only properly existed for 500 years tops. The first people of our species, Homo sapiens, have been kicking it on Earth for several 100,000 years. Neoclassical economists like Smith would have you believe that we stumbled on capitalism, discovered it, as if it were a fact of human life that was out there untouched, but informing the development of our species. These economists, the first capitalist theorists, set out to do for economics what physicists had achieved around the same time: discover a natural property of the world. But this project is impossible, because we made capitalism up. It's the product of a specific historical context. On the one hand, you had the growing power of a merchant class butting up against the dying power of a monarchical class. Feudalism was toppled over the course of a few revolutions and then exported around the world in a series of bloody conquests. And it happened not because we are built for capitalism, but because the feudal system just happened to set the stage for capitalism. Laws introduced the idea of private property, and technologies facilitating trade and production allowed people not born into nobility to acquire wealth. That's why we have capitalism today. Not because it's in our human nature, but because in a specific context it was the most efficient way to accumulate and then hold on to power. The idea that it was part of our human nature only came after. Our present hegemonic view of humans, as either a bloody, greedy, violent animal ready to descend into barbarity at the drop of a hat, or a rational,
True, the first Homo sapiens' first invention was obviously the currency. True, thank you, Adam Smith.
calculating, self-interested trader came to dominate at precisely the same time as it became useful for giving legitimacy to the new political order. When capitalism emerged, it came with the myth that we are somehow incredibly rational in the context of a market, owing to our supposed predisposition to trade, but incredibly irrational and prone to violence in all other social matters. The natural solution seemed to fit with the existing society: an economy organized by a market coupled with a powerful state to keep the order, and the capitalist class at the head of the factory to keep us in line. So it stuck. It was endlessly reproduced as an incontrovertible truth, and like the divine right of kings, became the myth that holds the justification for capitalism together. But it doesn't take much to see how contradictory this view of humanity is. It assumes that we are perfectly rational in economic affairs, geniuses at the grocery store able to make complex decisions and assess value on goods to find the perfect equilibrium between cost and return, but irrational idiots the second we have to make decisions about anything else, especially in the halls of government or academia. This is a useful contradiction for capitalist economists, because as soon as people act irrationally, meaning not like what their theories predict, economists can blame it on the fact that people are dumb when they aren't acting like the self-interest economic animal they expect humans to be. And their economic theories stay perfectly intact. Human nature is a safety valve for capitalist economics, a heuristic that can be used to model a society that just happens to benefit capitalists and simultaneously can find a justification when the model fails to explain reality.
Right. This is all like a long-winded way of saying like this is all bullshit. We made all of this up. We made all of this up, and tens of millions of people are suffering without health care, as an example, because of some ridiculous system that we just literally made up.
And at this point in the video, I want to bring us back to socialism. A lot of the misconception about the impact of human nature on socialism comes from the fact that socialism is often poorly defined. Socialism, when we talk about human nature, is often viewed as a society where everything is the same as it is right now, except that people share. That is not what socialism is, and it's easy to see how one greedy, selfish, or cruel person could completely ruin it if socialism depended on people being nice and the honor system. But in reality, socialism, at the economic level, isn't about sharing.
No,
it's a society where if everybody needs something, it's owned collectively, and we all get to decide how it's distributed. The means of production are held in common and subject to democratic control. Instead of individual business owners making decisions about production to serve their self-interest and submitting them to the market for review, and so be it if some people get none and others get almost everything, under socialism, the things that affect all of us are decided by all of us. This can take many forms. For example, banks could fund business projects on the basis of a democratic mandate, instead of venture capitalists and for-profit banks calling the shots. Businesses could be run by the people who work there, and who either elect their boss or make strategic decisions by vote, instead of your boss just being some random guy with money. Your town could hold meetings where people point out what's missing and devise ways to fill the gaps, instead of waiting around and hoping someone will find a way to solve the problem in a profitable way. Trade wouldn't disappear, but profit would. You can be as selfish as you want in this context, but good luck convincing everyone else to prioritize your needs at the expense of everyone else's.
True. I could be mistaken. I think most countries have a mixed economy, but will the world of 400 billion to 8 billion agree to change to barter only? The dentist will now take a piano or a car for 3 surgeries? No, you don't. Like I said, you don't even have to, you don't even have to live in a world where you only get to barter. I mean, so like a socialistic society wouldn't even need that. Socialistic society just means that the workers are the ones who own the means of production. In other words, the dentist isn't subject to some boss or some corporate whatever. The dentist owns his private practice or whatever. All dentists would own their private practice. If there's like an office with the hygienist and whatever, all of those people would be collectively owning that practice. That's it. It just means that workers are the ones who own the means of production. Sad part is history would likely have been a very different part of the worker compensation if their work would have been partial ownership of the company and have had a vote and say in major decisions. True. Yeah, dentists would be a part of a dental guild organization or something. However you want to organize it. It doesn't matter. Like I said, you don't even have to eliminate currency necessarily. It's the idea of profit motives. Back in the day, the doctor was promised food and usually housing and other things in lieu of services. Well, there you go. I mean, you know.
Without the power to withhold something from
that's kind of like bartering.
Someone else because you're the sole owner, what you'll find is that these systems reward those who collaborate. This doesn't mean every little thing has to be approved by everyone else, or that you have to be nice. Everyone is free to be independent so long as that doesn't require taking independence from someone else in the process. All socialism means is that for decisions of societal importance, it's only right that a democratic process applies. Today, we live under a system that rewards those who screw others over. That's a legitimate winning strategy to get ahead under capitalism. In a socialist economy, the only difference is the winning strategy, not the people. None of this implies a perfect society where no one is ever upset, just a society where greed doesn't let a few lucky people take advantage of everyone else. At the end of the day, we'll always squabble about what human nature really looks like. But holding ourselves back by imagining we can't transcend our weaknesses isn't going to get us very far. I mentioned at the beginning of the video that this episode is made possible by Ren. We talk a lot about the failures of capitalism on this channel. One of the more obvious ones is our complete unwillingness to transition away from fossil fuel use, which has led us to the greatest crisis humans have ever faced, not to mention countless other species. So when Ren reached out to see if I'd be interested in working together, I was cautiously optimistic. As we all know, it's important not to individualize a systemic problem. Even if all of us as individuals take steps to reduce our emissions, we still have to contend with the power and greed of big business and the military-industrial complex, the main drivers behind the climate crisis. That being said, there are tangible ways each of us can contribute to the fight against climate change. One of those ways is through carbon offsets. Now, that comes with a big asterisk. There are plenty of shady groups out there that will take your money in exchange for vague promises to offset your carbon emissions. Kind of like a modern form of indulgences. You feel better, but nothing really changes. It can be a challenge to find real, scientifically sound...
True. All right. That's the rest of it is a shill. Nice video. All right. Let's talk about this. Because I think that, I think this is kind of important. Remember, the Republican Party is supposed to be the party of life, right? Pro-life, whatever bullshit. Alaska House censures Representative Eastman for asking about the economic benefits of deaths of abused children. Yeah. Cool. The Republican Party, folks. The party of pro-life. The Alaska House of Representatives, and sure, this might be a state representative. The issue here is that this is not an isolated sentiment. It's just nice to see it out in the open. The Alaska House of Representatives formally reprimanded Wasilla Republican Representative Eastman after he asked during a committee hearing whether there could be some economic benefits from the deaths of abused children. Yeah, if that's not an indictment on capitalism, I don't know what is. And the most that these Republicans did was just like censure him, essentially disagreeing with the statement. No consequences whatsoever. No consequences for this Republican. The censure vote was 35-1 with Eastman as his sole no vote. The censure vote is a formal state of disapproval, but it has no other consequences. The Wasilla Republican asked a series of questions during a Monday House Judiciary Committee hearing the impacts of child abuse. Eastman asked representatives of the Alaska Children's Trust whether there could be economic benefits to society from the death of an abused child. Talk about a death cult, folks. The questions were intended to make a point about economic arguments for abortion, he said. Eastman, who is vehemently anti-abortion, but this isn't even the same thing, said that it was outrageous to suggest that he supports the death of children. No, it's just that you asked if whether or not there was an economic benefit to it. When I staked my it was outrageous to support to suggest that he supports the death of children when I staked my entire political career arguing the opposite. A clip of the exchange between Eastman and Trevor Storrs, the president and CEO of Alaska Children's Trust, was shared widely on social media. It sparked widespread outrage online and news reports from national outlets. Anchorage Democratic Representative Andrew Gray sat next to Eastman during the hearing. He adopted a child from the foster care system who had adverse childhood experiences. He introduced the censure motion and said language used by Eastman was atrocious and indefensible. Yeah. We must do something. This body must act. Eastman has shown no contrition publicly for the comments he made. Homeward Republican Sarah Vance, who's the chair of the House Judiciary Committee, initially objected to the censure motion before voting in support of it. She said the question asked by Eastman were messy and insensitive. That's one way of putting it. I should have been more sensitive to my members in that committee, and I intend to do that moving forward, and to offer everyone an opportunity to clarify something that may be interpreted incorrectly or may be received in a way that perhaps was not intended. And I don't know about that. House Speaker Kathy Tilton, Republican of Wasilla, was unavailable for comment after the censure vote. A spokesperson for the Republican-dominated House Majority Caucus said that the actions on the floor speak for themselves. Now the House needs to get back to business. What did I miss? Oh, just, a state Republican in Alaska just basically asking if there was any economic value to the death of abused children. Other House Republicans were damning of Eastman, while still Representative Jesse Sumner, who ran against Eastman in 2020 when they were in the same House district, said Eastman should be expelled from this legislature. Anchorage Craig Johnson, who sits on the House Judiciary Committee, said he voted to censor Eastman because he doesn't speak much and actions speak louder than words. Fellow Anchorage Representative Julie Colomb said the words have meanings and the rhetoric Eastman used reflects on the legislature as a whole. It remains unclear whether the state house will take further actions against Eastman. He has been rebussed from joining the House Majority Caucus and is not a member of the Democratic-dominated House minority. As a legislator serving alone, he's not entitled to any membership or any legislative committees. Vance said on Tuesday that she wanted Eastman to stay on the powerful House Judiciary Committee due to his different thought process. It's a way of saying that. Vance did not immediately respond to a request for comment whether her position had changed after the censure vote. Eastman recently faced a court challenge after a former constituent said his membership in the far-right Oath Keepers made him ineligible to hold office in Alaska. Oh man, it's all coming together now, huh? Holy shit. Oh man. It's all coming together now. An Anchorage judge ruled in Eastman's favor, allowing the Wasilla lawmaker to return to the House to serve his fourth term. Cool. So he has or had ties to the far-right militia, the Oath Keepers. Cool. Nice meme. Legislative hearings were heard into his Oath Keeper membership last year, but no action was taken against them. Nice. Just casually, member of a domestic terrorist organization. Cool. Nice. In 2017, Eastman became the first Alaska House member to be censured in state history after he claimed that women in rural villages try to get pregnant so that they can get a free trip to the city for an abortion. He's now the first and only state legislator to have ever been censured twice. Yeah, this guy, modus operandi is very obvious here. Jesus. What an abhorrent human being. Can only be Republican. This is why, local elections are so important, folks. Local elections are so important. All right. This video caught my attention because it came up on my feed. So now I'm curious. It's so quiet here tonight. Wake up! I don't really have a sound that I could use on my little soundboard.
All right, y'all, welcome to the show. Got a great one for you. So,
just to be clear, I haven't seen Kyle Kulinski in so long that I didn't realize he had, dyed his hair blonde. But this kind of caught my attention, so here we are.
Looks like Fox News is all in on just giving a reach around to Ron DeSantis, and they're also snubbing Trump and perhaps being more aggressive against him than I've ever seen them be.
Marxist cities?
Quite a bit to say about that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's Trump.
We also have some new results just came out on these various studies that are being done on the 4-day work week, and the findings are astonishing. I mean, they're really something.
Spoiler alert, 4-day weekend tests were probably an overwhelming success. And I don't even need to see the studies to to know that. What happened to his head? I don't know. He's blonde now. Welcome, Manu. Welcome, Cosmic Seekin.
And not only is it good from the perspective of the worker, but honestly, even from the perspective of the companies themselves.
His eyebrows are still dark,
owners,
yeah.
Even they might take a look at this and be like, I don't know, man. Maybe that's the future. I mean, how big would it be if we moved to a standard 4-day work week and everybody gets...
If we move to a standard 4-day work week, that would be amazing. But no, it's not. It's probably not going to happen. Although I would be fully in favor of it. And I've talked about numerous pilot programs of 4-day work weeks that have happened across the world that have been enormously successful. But yeah, I don't know if the powers that be, the bosses would let that happen. But hey, who knows?
I mean, that's so many more days off per year. People would be so much happier if we moved to that.
True.
So we'll talk about that as well. And then later on, we have quite a story about how stem cell treatment is out here pulling off miracles, just curing illnesses. So we'll get to
it's
that.
not miracles, it's science.
Let's go ahead and jump into it here. So I want to start with Trump. Did one of his Mar-a-Lago, I'm president / I'm not president, but I'm going to act like I'm president speeches. And talking about, what he's going to do in 2024. And this one caught my eye because it's a step above and beyond even what happened the last time he was in office. So let's listen.
Humana's all-in-one Medicare Advantage plans include...
Get out of here.
We will go after the radical Marxist
last time he was in office. So let's listen.
We will go after the radical Marxist prosecutors who...
The radical Marxist prosecutors. True. True. There's so many radical Marxist prosecutors. It's unbelievable. All right. I'm gonna see if I can find this actual tweet. I wonder if he reposted it or something. Yeah, it's okay.
who are abolishing cash bail, refusing to charge crimes.
Abolishing cash bail. What does that mean? Who we watching? A Kyle Kalinske segment that got my attention. I just can't with this. It hurt my brain, the level of them. No, it gets better. It gets better. So we have Marxist prosecutors. Okay. The abolition of cash bail. I assume what he means. It's hard to tell because they never really. They're not very explicit. They're vague. On purpose. I imagine there's this one city. I don't know. One city decided to attempt to remediate this whole garbage cash bail system. And now it turned into a whole big thing with the right wing spreading a lot of bullshit that didn't happen. Yeah, I don't know.
and surrendering our cities to violent criminals.
This
They have
is not a
surrendered
thing.
like never before.
Not a thing.
I will direct the DOJ to open civil rights investigations into radical left prosecutors' offices, such as those in Chicago, LA, and San Francisco.
Who are these radical left prosecutors? Are there like prosecutors that are like spreading like socialistic ideas? I don't know. By better you mean dumber? Yeah, it just whew. It's Trump.
To determine whether they have illegally.
Yeah, true. Known radical leftist socialist communist Kamala Harris. True.
Engaged in race-based enforcement of the law. I will also.
So just to pause there for a second, just so you understand what he's saying. He's saying in these radical left Marxist cities, the laws are actually biased in favor of minorities, in favor of black people. That if you commit a crime and you're black, they're like, bro, we'll let you go because you're black. But if you're white and you commit a crime, well, then maybe there'll be some punishment.
Race-based enforcement.
This is the
yeah,
claim he's making. So he wants to do a civil rights investigation to determine if they're going too lenient on black criminals and all these.
Yeah. This is gonna get cringe real fast.
Marxist left radical cities. Okay, I don't know what world these people live in.
Yeah, it's actually the opposite of what he's suggesting. Yeah, well, it's Trump, so.
Such as those in Chicago, LA, and San Francisco, to determine whether they have illegally engaged in race-based enforcement of the law. I will also.
There's one, if you talk to a black person in the U.S., the first thing they'll tell you is, this criminal justice system is so biased in favor of us, bro. Very widely held belief that black people get away with a lot more stuff than white people.
Also work with Congress to give the victims of their Marxist policies.
Jesus Christ. Okay. Oh, man. So a lot of red flags are going off. And again, this guy is running for president. The Republicans do have the House. The Republicans also have the Supreme Court. I'm just saying, I don't want a scenario where Republicans manage to somehow get the Senate and the presidency because, holy yikes, Batman.
The right to sue local officials for harm and suffering, and it has been great that they have caused. If your small business is pillaged because...
Wait, what? He's such danger. Why can't we just jail him for spouting dangerous rhetoric? Yeah, that's unfortunately like you can't. So here we are.
Shoplifting goes unpunished. If you're brutally attacked by a violent felon released without bail or bond, then you will be entitled to massive damages. Fifth, in cities where there has been a complete breakdown of law and order, where the fundamental right...
What? Source? An example, please?
...right of our citizens are being intolerably violated. I will not hesitate to send in federal assets, including the National Guard, until safety is restored.
So basically, he did a video message here, this speech, where he's like, if I get elected again, we're going full police state.
Yeah, like, make no mistake, should he find himself, or should this country find itself in a situation where Trump manages to win the election, the Republicans manage to win the Senate because it's so close, it's such a razor-thin line, they already have the Supreme Court. Yeah, this could get dark real fast. He's calling to military. Yeah, of course. That's his solution. That's literally his solution to whatever nonsense he's spewing. Painting this picture that there's like lawlessness all around. I don't know what he's talking about, to be quite frank. But no, this is just a shield to hide or at least have some thin veneer of what he would actually do. He's trying to hide his authoritarianism behind like law and order rhetoric. If we believe that if you go far left enough, you get your guns back. True. He's still on that Floyd protest tip. Yep. That's what he's trying to summon up when he talks about people pillaging. Yep. It's almost a contest of Trump saying stupid and arrogant items, the same bad thoughts. The Dems are communists. Right. Radical Marxist prosecutors. Yeah, I mean, like, it would be one thing if this was just like some clown on TV. It would be one thing if like this was just some clown on TV. But unfortunately, this is the ex-president of the United States who is also currently the Republican frontrunner for the election next year. So, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah, this is what Kyle was talking about, probably. Yeah, I mean, like, this is a no-brainer. This is a no-brainer. Like, yeah, obviously, there's going to be massive improvements, not only just, like, in the fact that, like, productivity will still remain, the same, but like employees' mental health, physical health will be vastly improved. Turnover rates will be vastly improved. I mean, and even from a economic perspective, their profits will improve. The company's image will improve. It's just a no-brainer. There's no negative downsides to this. Alio with the 11 biddies. Zeoduke with the tier 1 sub, almost at 24. We're almost at a 2-year anniversary. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Zeoduke. Mayhem Hippie with another 100 biddies. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Whew. The revival of Marxism in the U.S. is really impressive. I had no idea there were so many. Yeah, literal cities, and now and now Marxist prosecutors too. It's incredible. Incredible stuff. You guys are on fire today. Jesus, thank you so much for all the support. I appreciate that. Whole cities where police brutality runs rampant against POC communities. Yeah, like that's a thing of the past, Mayhem Hippie. These radical Marxist prosecutors are racially engaging in racially enforced whatever bullshit he said. Oh god. Since last summer, staff at the Rivian Robotics have been enjoying a 3-day weekend. David Alator's chief technology officer said, "We wanted to instill a culture in the company. We're putting well-being first and making sure that everybody's rested in good work-life balance. Based on a bright industrial unit close to the River Dawn, the company makes robots that meticulously finish 3D printed parts for manufacturers. For industry, including aerospace and medicine, in consultation with the colleagues, they opted to take Fridays off and extend the workday to 8 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. on the other days of the week." Wow. It's nice to have that flexibility, which makes the biggest difference to me personally, That Friday, even though I may end up working some of it, I can be at home, walk the dog, or go climbing. Yeah, I'm looking at some of like the highlights. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I completely believe this. I've gone over several pilot programs that have been wildly successful.
We'll do full, like, martial law, authoritarianism, and he's doing it under the guise of, well, you know, these radical Marxist left, you know, cities and states, they're overrun with violent criminals, and so we need to send in the military to, like, get that under control.
Yeah, I love how it's like, damn, that's a little convenient that, like, the places you select are, it just happens to be places of your political opposition where you want to send in the military. Federal resources like the National Guard, as you said. I may be a radical, but I'm not a Marxist. Too bad. Under the right wing, it don't matter. Like, this is exactly what I'm talking about when it comes to, like, the argument that I make about Republicans are fundamentally incompatible with democracy. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Threatening to send in the National Guard in the places that just happen to be of your political opposition. Under the thin veneer shield, whatever, that you want to hide behind of law and order or whatever bullshit. I think you got me started on Kyle Kalinske those 2 years ago. Yeah, I mean, like, I used to watch more Kyle Kalinske. I mean, like, sometimes I get, like, angry at his takes, but I haven't watched him for a while. But yeah, this is an important piece. Definitely, definitely. I did not catch this. Vermont is weird, man. Even the hippies got pew-pews. That's funny. The red states are well ran and don't have such issues. Exactly. They're just gonna coincidentally. Send in the National Guard to the democratic cities or whatever. I do admire people that have an independent brain. Well, I mean, I don't really have my brain is pretty close together. You know, it's not really independent of my body. So I don't know if you would say that I have an independent brain, but hey. Yeah, but how many would defect service if that happened? Hopefully all of them. Hopefully they would look at that and be like, no. But I don't know. Hey, Kitty, how's it going? Come on, Kitty. You want to do the news? Yes? You want to do the news? Come on, kitty. There you are. You gotta get off my headset, though. But I hope most would. Yeah, in an ideal scenario, you would get some pushback.
Yeah, that's exactly what people want to hear. The guy who believes he won the last election and tried to overthrow it and spearheaded the whole January 6th attempted insurrection thing. That's what people want to hear. Yeah, that guy's going to become president again and then make the country a police state.
Not the country a police state. It just happens to be the places that have his political opposition. Yeah.
That I'm sure they're going to protect everybody's civil liberties and their freedoms and their constitutional rights under that system. I'm sure we have nothing to fear from that. I mean, I don't know. Why would he even release this now, right? Like, it seems to me like he's talking from the George Floyd era where, George Floyd was murdered by the cops, and then there were, like, plenty of peaceful protests, but then also riots that broke out. Like, it sounds like he hopped in a time machine or his brain glitched, and he's like, I'm just going to give a rant like that's happening right now. That's what I'll do. And, what's the point of this? I don't... What's the point of this? The point is just, Donald Trump, like a police state. I would like to have a police state. And also, I love when he keeps calling them Marxist. Can anybody just take a moment in an interview with Trump and ask him, what's Marxism? Like, give me your definition of Marxism.
Yeah, like, not even, we don't even need to get that far. I mean, the first question I would ask is, like, can you give me an example of a radical Marxist prosecutor? Can we get an example of what that looks like and who that is? Lawyers close to the GOP witness in Georgia, Fulton County are preparing bids to shut down any possible indictments. Yeah, I'm sure that some indictments are coming. Cats loving life, true.
I would love to hear it. It would be hilarious to hear Trump try to define that. Oh, it would be glorious. Like, and I don't even understand this argument.
Like, if you were to ask what Marxism is to Trump, I don't even know how he would answer that. He would just be like, Biden. The radical left Democrats. That's what he would point to. It's like when Ron DeSantis's lawyers were asked to define wokeness or what is woke, since you're going to like make legislation, you got to have some kind of like definition on the books. And their definition was something to the effect of like anything that brings up like in any injustice in the system in America. That's what they defined it as. So yeah.
Of like, in the blue states, they've made murder legal and stuff. Like, that seems to be the implication. They're not literally saying that, but the implication seems to be like, oh, bro, everybody's running wild. No, what's happened is, in some states, the prisons are so overcrowded that they've, like, started to do more, instead of doing pre-trial detention, they've started to release people before their trials because, again, the prisons are so overcrowded, they kind of really don't have a choice. And so a lot of people look at those circumstances, and it could be somebody who is a violent criminal who gets out from pre-trial detention, even though in theory they'll be back in a courtroom and then eventually probably back behind bars. They look at that and they think, oh my God, these, lefties are now pro-murderers and pro...
Yeah, like, again, lefties? Explain to me which one. I need an example of what these lefties look like.
Rapists and, not in favor of punishing them or not in favor of punishing, whatever, larceny, burglary, theft, whatever it may be. And I mean, that's just not accurate. I've always said about myself, when it comes to the drug war, I mean, I just think the whole concept is absurd. And I don't think these things we're locking people up for are actual crimes.
True.
I don't think if you're selling weed or even selling cocaine or taking the substance or whatever, I don't view that as a crime. I view that no different than the company that makes whiskey and sells it, or Monster Energy or whatever it may be. And so for those, it's like, I would go way more lenient. But when it comes to actual crimes, yeah, I'm tough on crimes that I think should be actual crimes.
All right.
Murder, rape, whatever. But also corporate crimes. And that's the biggest irony of all for Donald Trump here, is that this guy doesn't even believe white-collar crime is a thing. Right? This is the guy who dropped all of the new regulations and dropped the lawsuits against the predatory payday loan industry. I mean, these people are predators. These people are criminals. These people screwed people relentlessly. Wall Street. How many people on Wall Street did the Trump administration go after? These are people who had fraud as a business model. As a direct result of their actions for greed and money, you had millions of Americans lose their home.
Yes.
Did you go after the corporate criminals? No. So they don't even believe corporate crime is a thing. They aid and abet the corporate criminals. You know, war criminals. Remind me again who Donald Trump led into his administration. Oh, that's right, John Bolton. John Bolton, the neocon, warmonger, bloodthirsty criminal who was one of the architects of the Iraq War, which led to minimum hundreds of thousands of innocent civilians dying, millions displaced, $7 trillion wasted. This is a guy he had as a top advisor in his administration. He hired Gina Haspel, one of the architects of the torture program.
Yeah, like pro law and order to a certain point.
So, I'm tough on crime. I'm super tough on crime. Unless, of course, the criminals are war criminals, corporate criminals, white-collar criminals, or January 6thers, because those are the people who he literally talks about. Maybe I'll pardon them.
Insurrectionist. The word you're looking for is insurrectionist.
Wow. So when people commit a crime on your behalf, they're totally innocent, did nothing wrong. So, look, what he means is, let's just boil this down to its simplest form here. What he means is, blue cities and blue states, I will just make you a police state. That's what I'm going to do.
Right, because political opposition. Yeah, nothing fascistic about that, folks. Nothing to worry about here, folks. You know?
It's got nothing to do with, like, law and order and protecting the citizenry or any of that garbage. That's the cover story for I'm just going to...
Right, that's exactly what I said. Yep, I'm glad that we reached the same conclusion. He's using that as a thin veneer, like a shield, to bring about authoritarianism. That whole law and order bullshit is just a thin veneer. He doesn't care about that.
Create a police state. You know, I will do total, lockdown
that is
type stuff.
The only true way that they can consolidate MAGA power.
Next time I get a crack at it, I'll go full dictator. I'll go full authoritarian. So, there you go. Again, I don't know what prompted him to...
Yeah, like that's a massive red flag. That's a massive red flag. We've been, like, I've mentioned for years, before when he announced his run, as he started to ramp up his campaign in the beginning, all the way till now, dude's an authoritarian. Dude's an authoritarian has no business being anywhere near power. Whatsoever.
Do this, but this is not exactly the best pitch when you're running for president again now, is it?
Well, to his base it is. To his base it is. I don't know how well that's going to go in the general election. But to his base, yeah. If the rhetoric was coming at the MAGA cult Trump, they would be screaming about America and freedom. True. Ironically, Trump with law and order does not get punished himself. Yeah, because he doesn't believe in that. He doesn't believe in that. Everything that they talk about is the opposite. Everything that they talk about is the opposite. They don't care. They're not pro-life. Not really. Not really. They don't care about law and order. They don't actually really care about freedom. They don't actually care about freedom of speech either. It's America. Hold on, I got you. All right.
If you put me in there, I'll be even worse. Because remember, he threatened to invoke the Insurrection Act in 2020. Basically deploy the U.S. military in the streets of the U.S., which is terrifyingly authoritarian and unconstitutional. He threatened to do it. But ultimately, the generals sort of backed him down from that. We're like, we're not doing that. That's not our job. Our job is not to police the streets of the United States of America. Well, now he's acting like, no, I'll do it. I mean, sounds like he wants to do it on day one. Just turn us into a colossal police state. More so than we currently are. So, anyway. Low-key terrifying stuff, if I'm being honest. Hey, y'all, do me a
low-key? High-key. High-key terrifying shit. Mike Lindell says that he will sue Kevin McCarthy for sharing January 6th footage with Fox News. He didn't share it specifically only with Fox News. He gave exclusive access to Tucker Carlson first. MAGA's just where all the Karens and Chads live. Changed my mind. Ha! Anyways. Totally not scary stuff. Let's take a look at this article from ProPublica. This climate-friendly fuel comes with an astronomical cancer risk. Almost half of products cleared so far under new federal biofuel programs are not, in fact, biofuels, and the EPA acknowledges that the plastic-based ones may present an unreasonable risk to human health or the environment. Yep. The EPA recently gave a Chevron refinery the green light to create fuel from discarded plastics as part of a climate-friendly initiative to boost alternatives to petroleum. How about we get away from fossil fuels, period? But according to agency records obtained by ProPublica and The Guardian, the production of one of the fuels could emit air pollution that is so toxic, 1 out of 4 people exposed to it over a lifetime could get cancer. Cool. This kind of risk is obscene, said Linda Birnbaum, former head of the National Institute of Environmental Health Sciences. You can't let that get out. The risk is 250,000 times greater than the level usually considered acceptable by the EPA division that approves new chemicals. Nice. Nice. Cool. Awesome stuff, Chevron. Awesome stuff, fossil fuel companies. Chevron hasn't started making this jet fuel yet. The EPA said when the company does, the cancer burden will disproportionately fall on people who have low incomes and are black because of the population that lives within 3 miles of the refinery in Pascagoula, Mississippi. ProPublica and The Guardian asked Maria Doa, a scientist who worked at the EPA for 30 years, to review the document and laying out the risk. Is this real? Yeah, this is real. This is an actual report from ProPublica. If you wanna just kind of take a peek at it. Doa, who once ran the division that managed the risk posed by chemicals, was so alarmed by the cancer threat that she initially assumed it was a typographical error. The EPA should not allow these risks in Pascagoula or anywhere, said Doa, who's now the Senior Director of Chemical Policy at the Environmental Defense Fund. In response to questions from ProPublica and The Guardian, an EPA spokesperson wrote that the agency's lifetime cancer risk calculation is a very conservative estimate with high uncertainty, meaning that the government erred on the side of caution in calculating such a high risk. Under federal law... What? It doesn't matter. Dude, it could be half that. And that's still way unacceptable. Under federal law, the EPA can't approve new chemicals with serious health or environmental risk unless it comes up with ways to minimize the danger. And if the EPA is unsure, the law allows the agency to order lab testing that would clarify the potential health and environmental harms. In the case of these new plastic-based fuels, the agency didn't do either of those things. Cool. Nice. You know, like, the one thing that the one job that the EPA has, it's like literally in their name, the Environmental Protection Agency, couldn't be bothered to do those, like, 2 basic tests? Yeah. Okay. In approving the jet fuel, the EPA didn't require any lab tests, air monitoring, or controls that would reduce the release of cancer-causing pollutants or people's exposure to them. In January 2022, the EPA announced the initiative to streamline the approval of petroleum alternatives in what a press release called the part of the Biden-Harris administration's action to confront the climate crisis, while the program cleared new fuel. Nice meme. Nice meme. Cool. Way to go, guys. While the program cleared new fuels made from plants, it also signed off on fuels made from plastics, even though they themselves are petroleum-based. Oh, God. The memes make themselves up. Like, I see why you could think that this is like a spoof article. Because, like, this is so absurd. Okay. That, even though they themselves are petroleum-based and contribute to the release of planet-warming greenhouse gases. Although there's no mention of discarded plastics in the press release or an EPA's website description of the program, an agency spokesperson told ProPublica and The Guardian that it allows them because the initiative also covers fuels made from waste. Okay, but the kind of waste matters. The EPA was gutted by Trump. True. The spokesperson said that 16 of the 34 fuels of the program approved so far are made from waste. She would not say how many of those are made from plastic and stated that such information was confidential. Confidential? Oi! This is a matter of, like, public health and safety. What? Something that could be incredibly important to the public's health and safety is, I'm sorry, not confidential. All of the waste-based fuels are subject to consent orders, documents the EPA issue when it finds that new chemicals or mixtures may pose an unreasonable risk to human health or the environment. The documents specify those risks and agency instructions for mitigating them. But the agency won't turn over these records or reveal information about the waste-based fuels, even their names and chemical structures. Without those basic details, it's nearly impossible to determine which of the thousands of consent orders the EPA on the EPA website apply to this program. In keeping this information secret, the EPA cited a legal provision that allows companies to claim as confidential any information that would give their competitors an advantage in the marketplace. Holy shit, this is such bullshit. A new compostable polymer technology. If we have time, we can take a look at that. Oh, man. Because it is so important to make sure that the almighty market is not disturbed. We are now going to keep confidential information that is valuable or important to public health and environmental safety. Cool. Nice. Awesome. Nevertheless, ProPublica and The Guardian did obtain one consent order that covers a dozen Chevron fuels made from plastics that were reviewed under the program. Although the EPA has blacked out sections, including the chemicals' names, the document showed that the fuels that Chevron plans to make at its Pascagoula refinery present serious health risks, including developmental problems in children and cancer and harm to the nervous system, reproductive system, liver, kidney, and blood and spleen. That's a good meme. Oh, this is great. This is great. Like, you know, it's kind of hard to not zoom out and, like, look at all this. You know, like the train derailment, and yeah, F them kids. Train derailment. There was like another issue that just happened in Florida. I think there was like some kind of problem with a factory. I think there was another train derailment. I mean, yeah, okay. Aside from the chemical that carries a 25% lifetime risk of cancer from smokestack emissions, another of Chevron fuels ushered in through the program is expected to cause 1.2 cancers in 10,000 people, also far higher than the agency allows for the general population. Cool. You get a total of 1.2 cancers in every 10,000 people. because the almighty dollar is the one that's dictating this policy. So of course, it could be 1.2 cancers in 10,000 people, or it could be every single person gets a single type of cancer. It doesn't matter. As long as line goes up, it don't matter. If line goes down, then it matters. This is why like energy needs to be nationalized. This is exactly why energy needs to be nationalized. These people have no business being in business. True, everybody gets a cancer. As long as line goes up, it really does not matter. You do not matter. The EPA division that screens new chemicals typically limits cancer risk from a single air pollutant to 1 case of cancer per million people. The agency... Nice. The agency also calculated that air pollution from one of the fuels is expected to cause 7.1 cancers in every 1,000 workers, more than 70 times the EPA's new chemical division usually considers acceptable for workers. See, for workers get 7.1 cancers for every 1,000 workers. That is a absurdly high number. That is a grotesquely absurd number to have. But, you know, the shareholders, gotta think about them first. How are they getting away with this? Because they are the ones that buy the mechanisms the mechanisms that create regulation or lack thereof. They buy the politicians. They have millions and millions of lobbying money for this exact express purpose. And this is how this ends up happening. In addition to chemicals being released through creation of fuels from plastics, the people... Hey, don't knock off my phone. Excuse you. The people living near Chevron refinery are exposed to an array of other cancer-causing pollutants, as ProPublica reported in 2021. In that series, which mapped excess cancer risk from lifetime exposure to air pollution across the U.S., the highest chance was 1 cancer in 53 people in Port Arthur, Texas. Knock it off. Go, kitty, go. No. I took the phone away from her. Listen, she's a very spicy kitty, okay? You do not need to encourage her. She's a very sassy cat. She does not need encouragement. Right? Live your best cat life. Oh, she is. She is. All right. Back to cancer. The highest chance was 1 cancer in 53 people in Port Arthur, Texas. The 1 in 4 lifetime cancer risk from breathing the emissions from the Chevron jet fuels is higher than the lifetime risk of lung cancer for current smokers. Hey, take a second with that statistic, folks. Take a second. Take all the time you need to absorb that one. The 1 in 4 lifetime cancer risk from breathing the emissions from these jet fuels is higher even than the lifetime risk of lung cancer for for current smokers. Take a second to absorb that statistic. You have a better chance of just being a lifetime smoker. Your odds are better as a lifetime smoker than it is by breathing the emissions from this bullshit greenwashed PR stunt. Let's mix it up. So this is in Texas, right? Well, just the this statistic, yes. The actual factory and the Chevron factory is going to be in Mississippi or Louisiana. Shoot, we just read that. Hold on. I'm sorry. Oh shoot, I forgot. Where is it? Okay, it's in Pascagoula, but what state was that? They literally just said it. Dang it. Mississippi. There we go. Yes, thank you. Mississippi. So this is Texas, right? Where Republican government on a level support this company and accept lobbying funds. Oh yeah, 100%. Texas is very big on fossil fuels. Well, here comes acid rain for me. Oh yeah, no, this isn't just gonna be an isolated incident, folks. Emissions travel. Yeah, this is not gonna be an isolated incident. In an email, the Chevron spokesperson, here we go, Ross Allen wrote, "It is incorrect to say that there's a 1 in 4 cancer risk from smokestack emissions. I urge you to avoid suggesting otherwise." I'm sorry. Excuse me if I don't believe you. Excuse me if I don't believe you. Asked to clarify what was exactly wrong, Allen wrote that Chevron disagreed. Oh, cool, dude. So, yeah, nice. Asked to clarify what was wrong, Allen wrote that Chevron disagrees with ProPublica and The Guardian's characterization of language in the EPA's consent order. That document signed by a Chevron manager at its refinery in Pascagoula quantified the lifetime cancer risk from the inhalation of smokestack air as 2.5 cancers in 10 people, which can also be stated as 1 in 4. I mean, yeah. Another way of saying it is that that's still pretty fucked. What? Oh, I don't like the characterization of this. You see, it wasn't 1 in 4. It's 2 in 10. 2.5 in 10. Bro, really? No, it's not great odds at all. Not at all. How's it going, Elron? Already contending with Ohio, it got so bad here that a Republican governor created and passed legislature that protected this area from the fossil fuels of the Midwest. Imagine that. In a subsequent phone call, Allen said that we do take care of our communities, our workers, and environment generally. This is job one for Chevron. This is not a very good rebuttal to the very damning evidence of how messed up this is going to be if it's allowed, or if it's built, or if it's, seen to its completion. This is corporate speak for this is corporate speak in an attempt to kind of just say nothing, but say words, I guess. Go on, kitty. This is in no way, shape, or form making me feel any better, nor is it disputing any of these any of this reporting. In a separate written statement, Chevron said it followed the EPA's process under the Toxic Substance Control Act. The TSCA process an important step. First step to identify risk, and the EPA identifies unreasonable risk. It can limit or prohibit manufacture, processing, or distribution in commerce during applicable review. Yeah, just one problem here. If the EPA isn't even making like the 2 basic tests necessary, and also you're making it seem as if you also don't have a hand in the legislative and regulatory process by lobbying. Generally, but not this time, they're gonna jump out and yell bazinga. The Chevron statement also said other environmental regulations and permitting process govern air, water, and handling hazardous materials. Regulations under the Clean Air and Resource Conservation and Recovery Act also apply to protect the environment. This is nothing, okay? Yeah, dude, we know these things exist, bro. Will they be enforced? Are you planning to follow them? Are they going to be enforced? How does this dispute the damning evidence that's coming out against you? It's not. These people are performing Olympic levels of mental gymnastics to justify poisoning the air and water and land. But OSHA has warned the public not to rely on its outdated chemical standards. The refinery rule calls for air monitoring only for one pollutant, benzene. Yeah, this is the problem right here. Like, yeah, dude, if you're the ones, you're trying to tout, like, these regulatory, like, things as if, like, that's supposed to mean anything. But if they don't target the specific things that you're doing, then what? The Clean Water Act does not address air pollution. And the new fuels are not regulated under the Clean Air Act, which applies to a specific list of pollutants. Again, these are Olympic levels of mental gymnastics necessary that are being performed here to essentially justify poisoning us, screwing over the environment, destroying the planet, destroying not only just like very fragile ecosystems, poisoning the air, poisoning the land and water, but poisoning us too. All for the sake of the almighty line. That is it. Yeah, there's no real punishment for these type of things either. Nope. Not really. Look at that article yesterday, 70K per day. But yeah, exactly. Like the people who caused, who had a big responsibility to shoulder in the, Ohio incident, 70K a day, they make 4.8 billion in profits. If you're going to find them, then make it hurt enough to make some real money for our government, at least. Or, at this point, I'm beyond fines. I'm past fines. They should just nationalize these fuckers. I don't care. At this point, they should just nationalize all these fuckers. The energy, like these power companies, these fossil fuel companies, these rail companies, all of them that are living off the backs of public infrastructure should just be nationalized. It's okay. They need to be relieved of that duty. There should be no private interest whatsoever involved in any type of public utility or public works. If you want a $170 billion military budget, go after the fossil fuel company for EPA violations. That's the problem. Unfortunately, the military-industrial complex isn't only just the weapons manufacturers. It's the fossil fuel companies, too. They're the ones that power this whole thing, too. Nor can states monitor for carcinogenic new fuels without knowing their names and chemical structures, which are conveniently confidential. Yeah, UK energy companies would have gone to the wall last year, but the government lifted a cap on prices that could F us twice over for the price. They should have nationalized for pennies on the pound when they wanted to... when they went bankrupt. Instead, we bailed them out so they can carry on gouging us. Yeah, that's horrible, Elron. Yeah, these kind of like companies, like energy companies and all that. Nah, F them. Don't care. Nationalize them. I don't care. Enough of that. Enough is enough. We asked Scott Throw, a air pollution specialist who worked at the EPA for 30 years, how existing regulations could protect people in this instance. Now an independent environmental consultant, Throw said that the existing testing and monitoring requirements for refineries couldn't capture the pollutions from these new plastic-based fuels because the rules were written before these chemicals existed. Which, hello, red flag. Like, this is a massive red flag with these companies, with the companies, like, you know, public statement is like, whoa, we got all these regulations, and of course we're going to follow them. Because all of that doesn't apply. It doesn't apply. So of course, like in a public, in a public statement, they're just like, yeah, of course we're gonna obey the Clean Air and Clean Water Act. Like, yeah, okay, dudes, whatever. There is a chance that equipment designed to limit the release of other pollutants may incidentally capture some of the emissions from the new fuels, but there's no way to know whether that is happening. This is the chemical name, by the way. This is all redacted of how, like, the biofuel chemical composition is. We just don't know. Under federal law, companies have to apply to the EPA for permission to introduce new chemicals or mixtures, but manufacturers don't have to supply any data showing their products are safe. So the EPA usually relies on studies of similar chemicals to anticipate health effects. In this case, the EPA used a mixture of chemicals made from crude oil to gauge the risk posed by new plastic-based fuels. Chevron told the EPA that chemical components of its new fuels didn't give the precise proportion, so the EPA had to make some assumptions, for instance, that people absorb 100% of the pollution emitted. Asked why it didn't require tests to clarify these risks, a spokesperson wrote that the EPA does not believe these additional test results would change the risk identified, nor the unreasonable risk finding. Bro, how do you know that? In her 3 decades at the EPA, DOA has never seen a chemical with that high a cancer risk that the agency allowed to be released into a community without restrictions. The only requirement seems to just be to use the chemicals as fuel and have the workers wear gloves. Wow. While companies have made fuels from discarded plastics before, this EPA program gives the same administrative break that renewable fuels receive, a dedicated EPA team that combines the usual 6 regulatory assessments into a single report. The irony is that Congress created the Renewable Fuel Standard Program, which this initiative was meant to support to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and boost the production of renewable fuel. Truly renewable energy sources can be regenerated in a short period of time, such as plants or algae. While there's significant debate about whether ethanol, which is made from corn and other plant-based renewable fuels, are really better for the environment than fossil fuels, there's no question that plastics are not renewable and that their production and conversion into fuel releases climate-harming pollution. Yeah. That's to say the least. Under the EPA's renewable fuel standard, bio-based fuels must meet specific criteria related to their biological origin, as well as the amount that they reduce greenhouse gas emissions compared with petroleum-based fuels. But under this new approach, fuels made from waste don't have to meet those targets. Cool. Nice meme. In its written statement, Chevron said plastics are an essential part of modern life. Oh, Lord. Oh, man. This is a good meme. Hold on. I've got something for this. Hold on. I've got something for this. In its written statement, Chevron said that plastics are an essential part of modern life and plastic waste should not end up in unintended places in the environment. Bro. Plastics are from fossil fuels, dude. Cici Diosa, how's it going? We are taking steps to address plastic waste and support a circular economy in which post-use plastic is recycled, reused, or repurposed. Okay, but yeah, this is greenwashing. This is bullshit. This is bullshit. Environmentalists say that such claims are greenwashing. True, whatever you call it, the creation of fuel from plastic is in some ways worse for the climate than simply making it directly from fossil fuels. Over 99%. Are you looking for a designer? What? A designer? No. Does it look like I'm looking for a designer? That's kind of strange. Over 99% of all plastics is derived from fossil fuels, including coal, oil, and gas. To produce fuel from plastics, additional fossil fuels are used to generate the heat that converts them into petrochemicals that then can be used as a fuel. It adds an extra step. They have, said Veena Singla, a senior scientist at the NRDC, they have to burn a lot of stuff to power the process that transforms the plastic. Less than 6% of plastic is recycled in the US. Much of the rest, hundreds of millions of tons of it, is dumped in the oceans each year, killing marine mammals and polluting the world. Plastic does not only not fully decompose, instead it eventually breaks down into microplastics, which winds up in our bodies. As the public awareness of health and environmental harm grows, the plastic industry has found itself under increasing pressure to find a use for the waste. Right, but these same plastics are made from fossil fuels. And not only that, the solution is to stop making single-use plastic stuff. Make it from other materials that are more renewable, like hemp. The idea of creating fuel from plastic offers a comforting sense that plastics are sustainable. They're not. Yes, or algae. Hey, Becky, how's it going? Here, you could probably signal boost this too. Here. If you want to take a look at like the full article. No problem. Folks, if you have a second, please head on over to twitch.tv/Becketsphere. She does the climate stuffs, okay? The stuffs of climate. Join the streams on Tuesday and Fridays. And go to the YouTube channel on the links there. The release of cancer-causing pollution is just one of several significant problems that have plagued attempts to convert discarded plastic into new things. One recent study by scientists from the Department of Energy found the economic and environmental costs of turning old plastic into new using a process called pyrolysis. I don't know, whatever, with 10 to 100 times higher than those of making new plastics from fossil fuels, which is why these plastic companies opt to make new ones, and why we have that statistic that it's like less than 6% of plastics are recycled. The lead author said similar issues plague the use of this process to create fuels from plastics. The biofuel industry is so sketch. Yes, as we see. Oh man. Chevron buys oil that other companies extract from discarded plastics through pyrolysis. Through the parts of the consent order that aren't blacked out and don't mention that this oil came from waste plastics, though the parts of the consent order that aren't blacked out don't mention that this oil came from waste plastics. They're literally just laundering. Oh man, they're laundering a way of continuing to pump out like plastics by saying that we're doing a environmentally sustainable thing by just turning it into fuel, which is worse. But okay. A related EPA record makes this clear. The cancer risk comes from the pollution emitted from Chevron smokestacks when the company turns that oil into fuel. Nice. Cool. Excellent stuff. The EPA attributed its decision to embark on the Streamline program in its part to its budget, which it says has been essentially flat for the 6 years. The EPA spokesperson said the agency has been working to streamline its new chemical work wherever possible. The new chemicals division, which housed the program, has been under particular pressure because updates to the chemicals law gave it an additional responsibility and faster timetables. The division of the agency is also subject of an ongoing EPA Inspector General investigation into whistleblowers' allegation of corruption and industry influence over the chemical approval process. Surprise, surprise. Good memes. All right. Cool. Excellent memes. Hello, cat. We must give people several amounts of cancers so that the almighty line continues to go up. Here we are. Yes, love the emotes. All right. In case we had any doubts, the ex-member Proud Boys, this is the trial that's going on, by the way, for sedition. The ex-member Proud Boys were tip of the spear after the election. A former Proud Boy member who pleaded guilty to plotting with group leaders to violently stop the transfer of presidential power from Donald Trump to Joe Biden told jurors on Tuesday that he viewed their far-right extremist organization as the tip of the spear. Yeah, like to anybody who thinks that like these are just like, you know, just random clowns. No, they're not. These are domestic terrorists. Jeremy Bertino, who's testifying against former Proud Boy national leader Enrique Tarrio and 4 lieutenants as part, you're not very big on cat speak? What? She listens to me. I said, come up here. I said, if you want to come up here, and she did. It's just hard to see, but she's here. So the Proud Boys, hold on. As part of a cooperation deal with federal prosecutors, recalled feeling stunned and then excited when Trump told the Proud Boys to stand back and stand by during the first debate with Biden. After the election, Bertino viewed the Proud Boys as leaders of conservative movement. Interesting how they viewed themselves. This is the conservative movement. That's interesting and very telling. A perspective fueled by his regular viewership and conspiracy theory promoting InfoWars website. Nice! Damn. The full stochastic terrorism ring is all coming together, huh? It's all connected. I believe we were supposed to be the leaders of the country of the right wing. The tip of the spear. Oh, man. Bertino, 43 of North Carolina, is the only member of the far-right extreme group who has pleaded guilty to a seditious conspiracy charge stemming from an insurrection. It's not a mob, it's an insurrection. to the Capitol on January 6th, the 5 Proud Boy associates on trial charged with the same felony count, a Civil War offense punishable by a maximum of 20 years in prison. The trial is scheduled to resume on Wednesday with more testimony by Bertino. The trial recessed on Tuesday before a prosecutor began questioning Bertino about the January 6th insurrection. Bertino is the second former Proud Boy to testify at the trial. The first, Matthew Green, testified in January that group members were growing increasingly angry about the outcome and were expecting a quote-unquote civil war. Nice. Cool. But, all this was spontaneous, folks. It just kind of happened. Jurors had also have heard over a month of testimony by government witnesses in the trial of Tario, a Miami resident, Florida man, and co-defendants, whatever these clowns. Nordian was a Proud Boy chapter president and a member of the group's National Elders Council. Biggs, as just a background of these clowns, don't care. Bertino said that he believed the election had been stolen from Trump, and was hoping the Supreme Court would overturn the election results. Again, where do you think he got these ideas? Where do you think this rhetoric has been came from? Since November of 2020, before that election, Trump has been priming the pump for this. I mean, I even had a video talking about this. Hold on. I can now create and manage podcasts in studio mode? What? When did I make this? November? Oh no, this was from September he was talking about this stuff. Trump was talking about, Trump was starting to prime the pump back in September, months before the election. Anyways, stochastic terrorism, cool. He wasn't in Washington when the Capitol insurrection happened. He was stabbed during an altercation in downtown Washington after a Proud Boy march in December 12th and was still recovering from his injuries. Bertino said he became increasingly angry after hearing that his alleged assailant had been freed on bail. He directed much of his anger at police, feeling that he abandoned the Proud Boys. The implication being that the police are actually working with the Proud Boys, which is super telling. Super telling. Because for a while, a lot of us have been saying that, they're working with the cops. What's the implication if you feel abandoned by the police? The natural implication is that you were working with them. These domestic terrorists were literally working and being backed by the police. So that's cool. I feel like they were not on our side anymore. Holy yikes. He testified. This is testimony under oath, by the way. This is testimony under oath. So that's super telling, okay? The implication here is that, yes, the Proud Boys worked with police. The Proud Boys had a good relationship with police. The Proud Boys were backed by the police. Otherwise, under what other context could you feel abandoned if you were not working with them? So much so, to kind of further drive this point home, Bertino added that many Proud Boys began to refer to the police as Cop Tifa, a twist on the term Antifa, which refers to the anti-fascist activists. So here we have a sort of a Freudian slip, if you will. Think about it. It's a Freudian slip we're having here, because now the implication is that the cops are, the cops were the fascist. is the logic here. Because the cops switched from being cops, from being fascist, right, to being Cop Tifa, anti-fascist. So I think we had a little Freudian slip here. It's the little things, right? It's the little things you have to look for. Because like it's kind of weird that you would go to that mindset, right? Because obviously then the implication is that the cops are the fascists, right? Because now they're the anti-fascists. Yeah. Cool. Nice meme. The indictment in Tario's case alleges that the Proud Boys held meetings and communicated over encrypted messages and planned for an attack in the days leading up to the January 6th insurrection. On the day of the riot, Proud Boys dismantled metal barricades set up to protect the Capitol and mobilized and directed and led members of the crowd into the buildings. Tario was in Washington on January 6th. Either police arrested him 2 days before the Capitol insurrection and charged him with vandalizing a BLM banner at a historic black church during a December 2020 protest. Tario heeded a judge's order to leave the city after his arrest. Bertino joined the Proud Boys Charlotte chapter in 2018 after seeing videos of groups of members fighting with anti-fascist activists. He said he enjoyed the camaraderie with the men who shared his right-wing political views. By watching people beat the shit out of each other? Okay. He viewed their enemy as pretty much anybody who didn't vote the way they did. Holy shit. Yikes. Bertino said he became very close to Tario and was friendly with Biggs and whatever the other clowns, blah, 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 blah. He met Tario in person at a Proud Boys convention in Las Vegas and later at a January 2020 gun rights rally in Virginia, where he said they bonded over their escape from a confrontation with, quote, armed opposition. Proud Boys members described their group as a politically incorrect men's club for Western chauvinists. No, I think the name you're looking for is domestic terrorists. Bertino said there was tension within the Proud Boy ranks between rally boys who relished fighting with Antifa in public forums and party boys who preferred to drink together. Bertino recalled his growing anger in the summer of 2020 as protests erupted around the country in response to George Floyd. Yeah, dude, I'm so mad that people are getting really pissed about police brutality. Yeah, dude, that really, that's what makes me angry. People protesting police brutality? Damn, no. Especially like people of color protesting police brutality after a black person was murdered by the cops? Nah, dude. That's what gets me angry. Okay, dude. Yeah. Politically incorrect. He blamed violence and rioting on Tifa, calling them the foot soldiers of the left wing. True. Hey, remind me, how many of these quote-unquote rioting actually happened as a result of Antifa? How many of these riots, to the extent that there were, how many of these were started by the cops? How many of these were instigated by the cops? Follow-up question. How many of these were instigated by right-wing operatives? Yeah. You'll come to find that answer is a lot. There was just a story the other day. It came out on the news where this far right dude came out and admitted that he was the one that threw something at the cops or something to try to kick off a riot during that time. It was some kind of like far right dude. I forgot exactly the story, but I can probably find it. Oh, yeah, it's right here. Oh, I'm sorry. This one's much better. It was a Boogaloo boy. You know, the one that Jimmy Dore says there. Right. It was a fucking Boogaloo boy. Who shot up the cop station. Who purported to be a BLM supporter. Yeah. Cool. Nice meme. Hey, how's it going? I missed most of this. Oh, I was just basically going over domestic terrorists. You know. Just another Thursday in America. I thought we should have gone out there and stopped them to restore order. Bro, you're not a vigilante or a police officer. And I see and hear the socialist snowplow out there. True. I feel like when those kind of guys claim to be BLM supporters, it should be required to ask them to define what BLM fights for. True. No, these they don't. This was he intended to shoot up a cop station to try to, you know, kick things off, so to speak. Jesus. Bertino pleaded guilty to seditious conspiracy in October of 2022 and agreed to cooperate with the investigation. He hasn't been sentenced yet. The House committee investigated the January 6th insurrection featured video testimony by Bertino at its first hearing. The committee showed a clip of Bertino saying that the group's membership probably tripled after the president's comment of the stand back and stand by. In his trial testimony, Bertino called feeling stunned and excited by Trump's remark. It's rainy and sunny at the same time. What? It's still sunny? Wow. It's like it's 7:30, almost 7:30 here, and it is pitch black. I just couldn't believe the president was talking about our club. Oh my goodness. It was going to grow the domestic terrorist organization exponentially at that point. It's 4:26 here. Oh, okay, gotcha. That makes a lot more sense. Bertino joined Tarrio at the bar in Washington on the night of the presidential election. He became a fourth-degree member of the Proud Boys, the group's highest rank, after intervening in a bloody altercation that night. And jurors saw the text messages between Bertino and Tarrio. They called it. Now we have to mobilize. Should we roll out to state houses? Yes. So, cool. Yeah, they definitely planned this. We need order. We can't have people expressing that they don't like being murdered. True. That's what really gets me triggered. What a bunch of clowns. Yep, domestic terrorism, folks. And domestic terrorism. All this was breathed into life by stochastic terrorism. Damn, who knew? Who knew that words actually matter? Who knew that what you say and how you say it matters? Damn. Who knew? Who knew that constantly for months before the election, priming the pump about how this is all going to be rigged and everything, and there's no way I could lose unless it was rigged. Damn, who knew? Who knew? Well, hope these clowns get what's coming to them. Sedition is not a joke. Sedition is not a joke. I was already murdered. I am really a ghost. What? We have a ghost in chat? Nice. All right, folks. I gotta get going. I appreciate you guys hanging out in chat. Thank you so much for all the support. You guys have been bonkers today. I'm sure the cat can see you. Yes, the cat has a way of seeing. Sorry, Wade, too tired. Enjoy your night. And chat, no problem. Thank you so much. Thank you for the 200 biddies at the 12th hour. Thank you so much. Mayhem Hippie the Ghost. Thank you. And I hope you got some rest, honestly. Thank you so much for joining. I appreciate it. Thank you for the support. Thank you for all those biddies. Thank you, Mayhem Hippie, Alio. Thank you, Zeoduke, for the tier 1 sub. I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Mayhem Hippie, with the 5 gifted subs and more biddies. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. You guys are what makes this channel go. I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. Really quick, please, folks, consider checking out twitch.tv/Zebekisphere. I'll post the link there. No, that's not it. Hold on. Fake news. There we go. Please also consider checking out twitch.tv/AlioShare. And if you want to continue to support this channel but are unable to monetarily, please consider subscribing to the YouTube channel. It really does help us out. We're at 219 subscribers, so a couple of you have been subscribing. I really appreciate that. It really does help us out. We will be back Monday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you guys so much. You guys are awesome, and I appreciate the support. Really, I really do. Thank you guys. Thank you. So let me go ahead and do this here. All right, folks. As always, please stay safe. Please take care of each other. I love you all, and I hope to see you guys in the next one, Monday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. See ya! Thank you, Michael Hassett. Appreciate it. See you, Becky. Appreciate it. Thank you, Zeoduke. Bye-bye. We're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See ya.